Just from a show of hands, how many people have been to an e-marketing or interactive type of online marketing conference before? Okay, so about maybe a third of the room. How many people work for a pharmaceutical biotech company? Okay, now keep your hands up if your company is currently being investigated by the OIG. Unfortunately, that's what we're living with today, is everything moves so quickly, and this idea of adapting or dying is really what will make successful businesses. We're in a transformational time. It's very, very exciting to be in the industry during all the changes that are happening, but also it's important to understand what, in fact, are the changes that are happening. So I'm going to hit some of the key things that are going on, not go into a whole healthcare reform debate because that would just take 30 minutes to try to explain who is looking for what and what everything will come out of it. Look at some of the interactive experience and understand why it's important, and then share with you some of the programs that we've developed for patients specifically and why we've done that. So Edelman is a PR agency. 2009, they did their trust index for industries. They do this routinely every year. And unfortunately, what you see is pharma has dropped from 56% or 54% to 42%. Biotech doing a little bit better at 73%, 62, dropping to 62%. But you also, because of the economic situation in the US, you can see banks and automobile have dropped. Not a surprise, but people don't trust us because they think that the earlier skit that you saw from Andrew and Brian is that we can't give them what they need. So why would I trust someone that's unable to answer a question? Oftentimes, it looks like we're trying to hide something because we're not willing to respond to them. So this is something for us to engage our customers we need to do a better job of. What's also very interesting over here, and you can't read this, I apologize, but it's what is the credibility? What's the source of credibility? And what you see in this list is that credibility, television, websites, they're going down because there's so much cynicism in this, and they realize now that these channels don't always report what's best. Actually, industry analysts is one of the top ways, and business magazines are among the top sources of where do you get credible information. So this is also another survey that's done by Harris Interactive, and this has been done, you can see, since 1997. And I will postulate for you that a reason I believe pharma's how we're doing a good job of serving our customers has declined from about 80% leading industries like tobacco. Well, we don't exactly want to be leading tobacco. They're still at the bottom, but they actually picked up a little bit. Managed care, hospitals, telephone, health insurance. We were among the leaders up here. And what happened? What's the confluence that occurred in 1997? Direct-to-consumer advertising. And if you look at this on a time frame, you can see that since we started advertising directly to patients, we've had a gradual decline in how good we're doing serving our customers. We popped up a little bit in 2006, but unfortunately in 2009 we're back down and we've dropped again. Now I believe that part of the direct-to-consumer, and this is my own thinking, not that of EMD Serono, my company, but when you put your brand on a race car, how much are you really doing to educate patients around a disease state or around your drug? And we got into this when it was kind of the Wild West of direct-to-consumer advertising here in the late 90s and early 2000s, because we were slapping drug names on anything, throwing commercials up of people walking in parks, whistling, happy as can be because they're taking our drug. And patients don't feel that way. They have a disease, they need to be treated, and our drugs can help them cure the disease or manage the disease. This is a great quote by Thomas Dossel. This was just in, I think it was MM&M or Pharmaceutical Executive. But what I love about this quote is this is a person that's Brigham and Women's Hospital. For those of you that have ever worked in Boston, Brigham is a Harvard institution. I used to call on it when I was a rep. And Brigham doesn't let reps in. So what I found very ironic about this quote, which I think is a fantastic quote, is that this is the director of transitional medicine at Brigham and Women's that don't generally let representatives in, saying that medicine today has gotten better because of the pharmaceutical industry. So we do have an effect on physicians. I used to have arguments with the head of the chairman of the department that if a pharmaceutical representative could come in and sway someone that was smart enough to get into a Harvard hospital, there's probably a problem with your entrance exams. because we shouldn't be able to sway someone that's smart enough to be getting into Harvard. This is some of the perceptions that we have to deal with. And in the healthcare debate, the biggest challenge that we have today is in managing people's perceptions. It's always an issue that we have. And how we market, how we engage our customers and patients is very important in managing this dialogue. What this looks at is longevity and drug launches in different classes. And you can see in America, there's now almost 2 additional years, and this is just from 2000, but 2 additional years of life. People are living 2 years longer because of the drugs that we've brought out into this marketplace. But if you ask people, people believe this, and this is from the Harris poll. People think that the actual pharmaceutical costs are about 70 to 80% of what they're actually paying for, when in fact it's only 10%. We're doing a terrible job of managing the dialogue and engaging our patients and caregivers in helping them to understand where is the cost going in the system. ESI, Express Scripts International, is a very large PBM. It's one of the country's biggest. I had a very nice meeting with the CMO of Express Scripts, who came from St. Louis WashU University and was the head of the hospital there. And he was talking about the costs in the hospital system around MRIs, around using titanium hips when a steel hip will do. And looking as a payer at some of these costs, now he's at a PBM, but there's enormous inefficiencies in our system. And having pharma go out and say, well, we're going to take $80 billion and take it away from the cost of medicine is only a small drop in the bucket, because there's a lot more waste in the system going on. But unfortunately, we're one of the few people that will stand up, partner with Congress, and say, yeah, we want to do our share, when in fact, a lot of the times, it's the physicians who are part of the problem. I was just at a meeting, the ASRM, the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, and the president and CEO of the American Medical Schools Association got up and said, part of our problem is us. Physicians that are billing, doing multiple procedures, going out and having 3 and 4 tests that only need to be done with 1 or 2 tests. And a lot of this, unfortunately, we get the blame because we're the big behemoth and we're reporting profits, but a lot of it is also people looking introspectively at themselves. So as Billy Townsend, who used to be a congressman, has said, look, we're not the enemy, right? It's disease. We've got to fight this together, and we've got to get out of this challenge. So how can we do that?